So, Ido-san, shall we start?
Yes, please.
Yes. Good morning and good afternoon. Very welcome to the E-Round Table discussion organized by Faculty of Economic and Political Science, Shahid, Beheshti University in Tehran, and JAIA Japanese Institute of International Affairs in Tokyo. I am Ryoji Tateyama, Professor Emeritus of National Defense Academy, Japan, and the head of the research project for the Middle East and Africa organized by the JAIA. And I'm very pleased to be moderating today's discussion, roundtable discussion. Actually, today's discussion is the second one jointly organized by two institutions. The first one was held in March, and we discussed about the Indo-Pacific and Middle East affairs. And also at that time, it was less than 2 months since the inauguration of new American President Joe Biden. Therefore, we focused on the prospects for the US-Iran relations and the nuclear talks. And also, we discussed China's policy toward the Middle East. Since then, the 6 months have passed, and many important new developments we have seen in the region. The talks over the nuclear and other issues in Vienna have been stalled, and the new Iranian president, Ibrahim Raisi, took office just last month. President Raisi repeatedly said that Iran was ready to talk about the JCPOA to survive it, but we are not sure whether the talks will be resumed. And if the talks are resumed, we are not sure how and which direction the talks will proceed. And also, very important development took place in Afghanistan. The Taliban took over Afghanistan, and the new Afghanistan and the Taliban must change power balance in the Middle East and Central Africa. Because of these new developments and other issues and crises, I'm sure that today's discussion will be very interesting and also thought-provoking. Today's discussion, the first, I will ask three professors from Faculty of Economics and Political Science, Shahid, Beheshti University, to make presentations, which followed by the Japanese discussants' comments. And then the floor will be open for Q&A. And I'd like to ask all the participants and observers to make sure that to keep your microphone and camera off unless you speak, you talk. Now, I'd like to ask three professors to make presentations, and each presentation I'd like to ask to keep in about 15 minutes. And then the second presenter is the Professor Heidarali Masoudi. Professor Masoudi's research focuses on international relations and Iran-US relations. And today he talked about Iran-US relations and the future of JCPOA. So please start, Professor Masoudi.
Thank you. At first, I want to thank Dr. Shariatinia and our colleagues, the Japanese colleagues, to organize such an event. And I hope we can see each other in person in the near future. Let me share my presentation. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see.
Yeah. I want to talk about the Iran and US relations and the future of JCPOA. I'm going to answer and to talk about three interrelated questions. At first, the first question is, what are the main challenges in Iran-US relations? Second question is, what are the main Iranian narratives behind JCPOA or regarding JCPOA? And finally, what are the most likely scenarios in practice regarding the future of JCPOA? Regarding the Iran-US challenges, I can identify 5 challenges, as you see in the PowerPoint. The first one is that Iran and US relations are resistant to be structuralized. Two countries haven't had a regular diplomatic relations since the Islamic Revolution. And for this reason, third countries like Israel, Arab state, and some others can spoil the Iran-US relation. This is a deficit in Iran-US relations, and I think this deficit can some problems in Vienna negotiation about the revival of JCPOA. The second challenge is the mutual negative image making in between Iran and the US. Based on some deep-rooted historical narratives between two countries since the Islamic Revolution in 1979, Iran portrayed the US as its enemy, or as Ayatollah Khomeini said, the great Satan. And also US see Iran as a rogue state, or as Mr. Bolton said, as the central bank of sponsoring terrorism in the world. Third challenge is related to the mutual learning between Iran and the US. There have been many diplomatic interaction between Iran and the US in the last 4 decades, but unfortunately, most of them have been failed to break the ice between Iran and the US. In addition, these failing interactions have been interpreted by political elite in Tehran and Washington as an excuse to argue that the problem between Iran and US are so deep-rooted that cannot be solved forever. Each side lays the blame for these failures to other sides' door. For example, Iran blamed the US as unreliable to living up to its commitment under JCPOA and then withdrawal from JCPOA. And also US accused Iran of violating the spirit of JCPOA. These mutual experiential learning, I do believe, consolidate the logic of antagonism between Iran and the US. The political economy, is another important aspect of Iran-US relations. There has been built a rewarding system in Tehran and also in Washington to incentivize these antagonism between Iran and the US. It is especially the case in Washington, in the US, which is the home of many anti-Iran think tanks and lobbies, which are supported by Israel and some Arab countries. FDD, Foundation for Defense of Democracy, AIPAC, and Heritage Foundation, and some others are a few among many think tanks in Washington which make a bubble, an anti-Iran bubble for American policy makers in the kitchen of power, as Stanley Hoffman said in 1977. And final challenge, which is very important in Iran-US relations, is the war of narratives in two countries. There are many conflicting narratives in Tehran and Washington on how we can deal with each other properly. In Washington, there are three main narratives, including regime change, containment, and engagement. Although I do believe that the proponents of containment policy have the upper hand in Biden administration, but there are some influential political figures like Mr. Bolton, Pompeo, Tom Reach, Patrick Kennedy, and also some others who believes that the US must continue its maximum pressure to change the regime in Tehran. This mentality would have the chance of winning in any upcoming election in the US, especially maybe in the midterm election. It is also the case in Tehran. There is no consensus on what is the best way to materialize the Iranian national interest regarding JCPOA, and I do believe that there are three main narratives in this regard. The first one is the resistance narrative, and the proponents of these narratives argue that Iran must resist to any US temptation to fully engage, because dealing with the US can destroy the Iranian reputation as a heartland in the axis of resistance in the region. And more importantly, they believe that the revival of JCPOA would pave the way for JCPOA plus, which Iran forced to talk about and to negotiate about the missile program and regional activities. The second narrative is development narratives, and these narratives support the maximum negotiation and full engagement with the United States, which they believe would be more beneficial for Iran, because when negotiation is limited to some security issues, such a negotiation, such a interaction is more desirable for the US comparing to Iran, because the US has a demanding position and wants something from Iran in this regard, I mean security issues. Finally, survival narratives, which I believe would be more powerful in Mr. Raisi administration, argues that limited negotiation is an opportunity for reviving Iranian economy. And assuming that these survival narratives would be in driving seat in Mr. Raisi administration, I do believe that there would be three possible scenarios regarding the future of JCPOA. The first scenario is a Raisi's version of JCPOA, which the supporter of Raisi's version is they believe that it would be better for Iran rather than comparing to the Rouhani's JCPOA. And some politicians in Mr. Raisi administration and circle believes that Rouhani was a bad negotiator and signed a bad deal with the United States and other great powers. And they really believe that they can negotiate from a powerful position and can sign a better deal, which would be more beneficial for Iran. Second scenario is a completely new JCPOA. In this scenario, JCPOA is regarded as an obsolete deal, and Iran can use its nuclear activities as a leverage to a grand bargain, with the great powers. And Iran would, in this scenario, Iran would continue its nuclear program in the line with the zero breakout time policy. Zero breakout time policy. And final scenario, which I do believe that is the most likely scenario, is a JCPOA minus in opposition to JCPOA plus. In this scenario, Iran would stop a sensitive part of its nuclear program, and in return for lifting some sanction on Iranian economy, especially the Iranian oil exports. In my conclusion, I'm going to argue that JCPOA minus, the last scenario, would be the most practical and most realistic scenario to happen for two reasons. The first reason is related to Mr. Biden's fragile position in the American domestic politics, especially after the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. Biden administration, Biden administration facing very harsh criticism by Republican about especially US withdrawal from JCPOA, they would be more cautious. Biden administration would be more cautious about any concessions, giving any concessions to Iran regarding JCPOA. And second reason is related to Mr. Raisi's promises to rebuild Iranian economy. And I do believe that lifting some sanction can help Iran to increase its oil exports, and Mr. Raisi can deliver some of his promises to the Iranian people. Thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward to question and answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Masoudi. You showed us three scenarios concerning the future of the JCPOA. Of course, it depends on the negotiations in the future, but it's quite interesting. And also that you analyze the problems, the structural problems between the structural problems in the relations between the United States and Iran, from the negative perspectives and the political economy and narratives. Thank you very much for your presentation. I will make a response to the Professor Nakayama's question about the competition between United States and China and Iran's response.
Can I answer very briefly?
Yes, please.
Yes. Thank you very much from Professor Nakayama. I think there is no consensus in Iran regarding how Iran react and behave in the great power competition between US and China. And I do believe that there is a strategic vagueness for Iran on how and what would be the proper rule for Iran in this competition. And I think Iranian policymakers are reviewing the new situation and the implication of the US and China competition for a middle power like Iran and some others. And I think the main discussion, the main strategic discussion in Iran in the upcoming years would be this answer to these questions about the choosing between Iran and between US and China, and I want to assert that the official rhetoric by Raisi administration is that they want to have a balanced foreign policy. By balance, they mean a balance between different players, including US. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now that, as I already said, that the time has already passed, so therefore that I have to finish, or I have to conclude this session. As always, that our dialogue provide us a very interesting and different perspectives to understand and analyze the Middle East, which is full of crises and challenge. So to conclude, I'd like to express my special thanks to the three professors, Professor Shariatini, and Professor Masoudi and Professor Kermani for your very insightful presentation and remarks, and also your agreement of extending the time, staying here on additional time. And also, I'd like to thank Professor Onozawa and Professor Naki for your comments, and also all observers for your participation. And finally, I'd like to thank JAIA staff, Dr. Ido, Dr. Ms. Ishizuka, and Ms. Nakayama for your contribution. I really hope, as I said, that this roundtable discussion was the second time between the two institutions, and I really hope that we'll have a third discussion, roundtable discussion in the near future, and if possible, not as a virtual meeting, but as the actual one, real meeting in Tokyo or in Tehran, I don't know, but in the near future. Again, thank you very much for your contribution and participation.
Thank you very much for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.